It's a Trojan portal war.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Right on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network, your team every day, your first listen. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube or wherever you're going to download your podcast, always remember this show is free. Never forget how much I appreciate your support. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it's a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on a classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. USC is going to the transfer portal, and they're ready for war. That's what it's going to come down to. One of USC's biggest priorities in this transfer portal window, spring window, they need a couple of defensive linemen. More specifically, the Trojans need interior depth on the defensive line. And I think Eric Henderson, their coach, I think he knows a thing or two about developing that position, wouldn't you? You know, you got a guy named Aaron Donald, LA Rams, future Hall of Famer, Kobe Jones, who just popped on the scene when he came to USC. Those are just two guys who became not only just better players, but better people because they had a chance to be coached up by Eric Henderson. Well, there's something else to consider. It's not just USC who needs interior defensive help. There are other programs out there who need the same type of assistance. And that means USC is going to war. They're going up against programs who need the same type of help and are going to fight just as hard. So here's the question. Does Coach Eric Henderson, does he have enough cachet to balance whatever NIL cash USC is going to have to muster up? Because that's what's really going to come down to. These players know that they are needed. They have the leverage. And if you're saying, all right, well, do I want to go to USC? Do I want to go to Oklahoma? What's going to be, what's going to tilt the scales in one direction or the other? Coach Henderson's impact, let's be honest, it's been felt ever since he stepped on campus. He brought that, that dog work mentality that translates when he's communicating with prospects. He had Aaron Donald show up at practice one day. They threw a crawfish boil, and literally within 24 to 48 hours, Eric Henderson had Justice Terry. He flipped him from the University of Georgia. And he also had a commit from another high four-star defensive end, Isaiah Gibson. And don't forget, Gus Cordoba, another guy that they're really high on. USC got 3 defensive linemen within a 48-hour period out of the high school ranks. But that's the thing. Those guys aren't coming until 2025. USC needs help for this season. And here's what's going on right now. All those big men, they're starting to hit the transfer portal right now. The names are starting to drop. 2 in particular, interior guys, and both are from Southern California. And that means USC probably should have a unique advantage, right? Especially, when they're competing against the other guys that are out there, other programs. Now, normally that would be the case. But USC's defensive reputation these last few years, it hasn't been great. That's putting it mildly. So it's probably going to take a little bit of extra convincing. And perhaps if USC went after these 2 guys, these that I'm going to talk about here in a second, out of high school, maybe we wouldn't be having this discussion. The first defensive lineman who jumped in the portal and who's ready to actually make a visit to USC, his name is Germaine Lole. I need you guys to flash back to 2022 if you follow recruiting. Then he was at Arizona State. Defensive lineman Germaine Lole. He hit the transfer portal. That's when Arizona State's head coach at the time, Herm Edwards, resigned. They were going through their own issues during the COVID season. Long story, I'm not going to go into it now. Anyways, USC would have been the perfect destination But for whatever reason, there was a few of them. It never happened for USC. And Germaine ended up transferring to Louisville. Yeah, the same Louisville team that had a really good defense that USC just ran roughshod over in the Holiday Bowl. Last week, Lole informed WeAreSC.com of his intentions to jump into the transfer portal. This time, USC is definitely involved, and they're also very interested in the former Long Beach Poly standout. So here, Lole already has his visits lined up. Oklahoma, this coming weekend, April 19th. He's then going to go visit Washington, April 22nd, Texas A&M on the 24th, and then USC gets his last visit April 26th. Where do you subscribe to the philosophy of visits? Do you like the first visit? You want the last visit? Which is the best? Here's the other guy. This is the one I've been kind of alluding to. Texas Christian University's Demonic Williams. He's actually in the transfer portal now. And we are hearing that somebody that Eric Henderson is going to be going after. Well, Demonic is also from LA. And for whatever reason, out of high school, USC staff didn't show it a lot of love. Don't get it. Don't know why. It confused the hell out of me. Same thing with Mason Graham. Anyways, both of those guys, and I'm just throwing this in there as kind of a footnote, Demonic and Mason Graham, they're both alumni of the Giant Skills Group, school of Chris Talamayavo. Anyways, if you follow 7-on-7, Giant Skills is the 7-on-7 version for linemen. He was originally committed to Cal. Then he went to a bunch of camps during the summer in 2021. TCU saw some film, saw him at camp, and said, you know what? We're going to give you an offer. He said, you know what? I'm not going to go to Cal. I'm going to go to TCU. Well, he's now in the transfer portal. Now, I'm thinking this. USC should be hard to beat. They've got their NIL in place, right? They've got their defensive staff in place. Well, they're also going up against Oklahoma, Colorado, Ohio State, Auburn. Others are showing interest. Last year for TCU, Williams started every game, and that was the second year in a row. So he's got 27 starts under his belt. And he had 3 sacks. He was tied for 4th with 5 tackles for loss. So that's a good number for an interior lineman. That's a good number. Now, why it's so important for USC to win this war, win this battle. USC is getting a second bite at the apple. Remember, they didn't go after him out of high school aggressively. And as I said a moment ago, USC has everything in place. They have a new defensive coordinator who's proven that he knows how to fix a defense quickly. He did in 1 year at UCLA. It's a defensive scheme that likes to play physical. This scheme is made for defensive linemen. You've got a position coach that knows what he's talking about. You actually have 2 of them. But I'm focused right now on Eric Henderson because we're talking about interior linemen. So right now there's literally 0 reason for neither of these guys to come home. They're both from LA. Everything is in place. You got the defensive staff. You've got NIL. And you have the opportunity to play in the big conference and possibly make the playoffs in year 1. Recruiting young men, kids out of high school, I think is probably a little bit easier, especially for Eric Henderson. For one, there's more time to develop that relationship, especially when you're comparing it to the 2-week window that you have with the transfer portal. Look, it's what helped Jide Abasiri make his decision to come to USC. He knew ahead of time. That's why he said, you know what, I'm going to go to USC. Pretty sure Isaiah Rakes was already on board with USC before Eric Henderson was announced. Regardless, he's gone now. So how important are these 2 guys? Look, there's other prospects out there in the transfer portal who are available, and I'll go over some of those guys in the next segment. But when you consider everything with these two, being from Southern California, USC should have them. Look, USC should have had them out of high school. Are these must-have guys this time around? I think they are. And if they don't come, what will the optics be? What kind of message does that send? So USC is getting a second chance at these guys. How important is it for Eric Henderson to reel them in, to make sure that they are playing in Cardinal and Gold this fall? Let me know. Hit me up in the comments section. Tell me. When it comes to your financial future, you think you've done it all? You've saved, you researched, you've invested all that you can. Well, now you need to take those investments to the next level by using what every financial great uses, Yahoo Finance. And this couldn't exist without the help of sponsors like Yahoo Finance. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or you're looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. Securely link your brokerage accounts for a unified view of your wealth, including 401k and other investments. You have a comprehensive perspective. It's what sets apart great investors, and it's how Yahoo Finance ensures you have insight to look at your wealth in its entirety. With a community of over 90 million users each month, the real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com. The #1 financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. It's Locked On's NFL Mock Draft, live on April 17th at 7 p.m. Eastern, streaming on the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Or you can find it on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Find the ultimate 6-episode series on April 17th at 7 p.m. Eastern. That way you can hear who the local Locked On experts are picking for every NFL franchise, with live reactions from local college football experts and even the fantasy football angle. The Locked On NFL Mock Draft on April 17th at 7 p.m. Eastern, streaming live on Locked On Sports Today, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Before Coach Roy Manning was let go, Rush Ed's coach, he did one hell of a job recruiting. All right, let's remember to thank him for that. And he should also get a lot of credit for the guys that he brought in: Cameron Fountain, Elijah Newby. The fact that those two young men hung on and kept their commitments, that speaks volumes about their character, as well as the trust that they have with the new staff. Here's the thing, though. USC's D-line, it's actually got really good depth. I went and just did a count. There are 17 guys in the defensive line room. Most of them are designated as defensive ends. And you got some really talented guys in there. Don't forget, Braylon Shelby. I mentioned Cameron Fountain, David DJ Peavy, Sam Green. Plus, you've got the veterans. You've got Jamil Muhammad, Anthony Lucas, who we spoke about on yesterday's episode of Locked On USC. We will never forget about Solomon Tuliapupu. And then you have a guy in the middle, not quite a veteran, not really a new guy like Devin Tompkins. There are a few guys USC might be interested in at the defensive end linebacker spots as well. So we've talked about who they're looking at. Their first two guys that they want interior, Lole and Demonic Williams. Here's one guy who plays more of a defensive end role. On threes, Hay Fawcett, he revealed on Monday that Pittsburgh edge Dayon Hayes is going to be in the transfer portal. Well, he is. And USC is interested if Hayes is interested. And I think he is. Last season as a senior, the 6'3" 270-pound edge. He's from Pittsburgh. He played in 12 games. He started 11 of those. I think we're going to know by the end of the weekend how serious everyone is. The reason we'll know is because Hayes is going to be in LA over the weekend for the spring game. So if you're going to bring a guy like Hayes into the fold, you got to make sure that he fits. You don't want to upset the apple cart. Similar to bringing in another running back with experience into a very young room of running backs. They're also looking at somebody at the linebacker spot. His name is Larry Worth. Right now, he jumped into the transfer portal. He was at Jacksonville State. He's 6'4", 225 pounds, sophomore. He had 51 tackles, 3 sacks, and an interception last season. And according to WeAreSC.com's Eric McKinney, Worth has been in communication with Oregon, Duke, and Cincinnati, and he has a scheduled call with USC's linebacker coach, Matt Entz. That was supposed to be taking place Wednesday evening. So again, USC, they got a pretty good room of linebackers, but if you can bring somebody in with experience, and especially right now, linebackers are a premium in the transfer portal. So if USC is looking to bring one in, it looks like they've got their sight set on Jacksonville State linebacker Larry Worth. Now, I want to see USC make an offer to this guy, defensive lineman, defensive tackle. His name is CJ West, Kent State. Yep, out of the MAC. Defensive lineman CJ West. He entered his name into the portal, and he will be a grad student. He's 6'2". He's 315 pounds. Nose tackle, right over the ball. This is the guy you want. These last 4 years, he's as a member of the Kent State Golden Flashes. He posted 110 tackles, 19 and a half of those are for a loss, 7 sacks in 36 games. And now, those 7 sacks allowed him to lead or tie for the lead on the team in 2 of his 4 seasons. He also has a deflected pass. He forced a fumble, and he also recovered another fumble. So he can put that in his grab bag. And then as a senior last fall, West pulled a 40 tackles, 7 for loss, and a pair of sacks. This is who has already made offers and who's coming after him. You've got Texas A&M, Arkansas, Wisconsin, Colorado, Kansas State, Miami, Rutgers, Indiana, and then Michigan and LSU. Kent State, last year, they were 1-11, 0-8 in conference. That was under their first-year head coach. Now, the first-year head coach did something similar to what Eric Henderson does. Eric Henderson has his dog work, discipline, attitude, work ethic, grit. That word grit, well, Kenny Burns is the head coach for Kent State. And he implemented a model called grit, growing, responding, doing it with integrity, and doing it together. So anyways, I think it's interesting that you've got that going on there, that grit mentality, because CJ West said, quote, it's pretty much putting that into what we do every day. So when the time comes, we can put that on tape and show everybody what we're really about. Okay. Apparently, you're going to take that with you. Great. That should match up perfectly with Eric Henderson's dog work. USC, make the offer. Right now, Michigan, they've got Mason Graham still. They still have Kenneth Grant. Both of those guys haven't jumped in the transfer portal. They don't need this guy. USC needs CJ West. I don't know where he is on their totem pole, on their hot board, but I know that Lole and Demonic Williams are 2 of the top guys. Here's another name that I think that would make sense. Arizona, defensive lineman, Bill Norton. He jumped in the transfer portal earlier this week, And he spent 1 year at Arizona. Before that, he had spent 2 years at the University of Georgia. So last year, he appeared in all 13 games for the Wildcats. He had 32 tackles, 14 by himself, 18 were assisted, 2.5 tackles for a loss, and he defended 3 passes, 5 quarterback hurries, and 2 forced fumbles. When he was at Georgia, he redshirted in 2019 and 2020. Now, again, these are just names I'm throwing out there. No idea if USC is interested, but we got to see, right? I want to let you know there are hundreds of names in the transfer portal. I'm giving you some names that I know USC is interested in, and I'm giving you some names who I think USC should be interested in. You guys are out there. You're hitting up social media. You're hitting the all the different websites. When you're over there at wearesc.com, check it out. They have the transfer portal tab. Go in there. Who else should USC be looking at? Tell me. I have been told I'm a competitive person. The more you get to know me, the more you're going to agree. I hate saying names wrong. I hate losing. I hate doing anything where I'm not on top. I like to win. Anyways, well, I do have that competitive side, as you can tell. And my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you can play not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But here's the best part. My favorite part. I love messing with my friends. And I can charge them rent on my iconic properties, just like the classic Monopoly game that you know about. But now, you know what else I can do? I can go since I own the property, I can go take the money right out of their vault. And it'll show me who's leading. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world, and you can get in on timed tournaments, and you can also earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. All right, transfer portal. What does this all mean? Right? How important is it for USC staff to win the transfer portal wars? In my opinion, it's significant. I talked earlier about how, about recruiting high school, developing relationships, that communication process. You've got time to develop. Whereas you're trying to convince guys in a very short time period in the transfer portal. Relationship building, like I said, it's so much easier. You have time when you're getting those high school kids. You can take them out to dinner, talk to their parents, all sorts of stuff. Whisper sweet nothings. You have time to court the player. You don't have that much time with the transfer portal. This is really important. Why it's significant for USC to win these portal wars. Number one, Lincoln Riley is under the gun. He needs to prove that he is a defensive-minded coach. We know offense is first, but he said, going forward, whatever it means to get USC over the hump, defense will be priority number one. He brought in a staff that's second to no one. As well, Eric Henderson, part of that staff. He needs to be able to prove, not to the high school recruits, that older guys, they want to be coached up too. They want to get the finishing touches on their development before they go off to the NFL. So not winning these transfer portal battles, and if you're losing the players to Oklahoma, that would be a kick in the nuts. That would be one more, you know what, Lincoln Riley, they're getting over on you. I don't agree with it. That's the optics. Remember, it's the truth if somebody believes it. Yeah, Chris Arledge, my buddy over there on Inside the Trojan Huddle, he made that known to me. Said, Mark, doesn't matter if you believe it. If somebody else does, it's the truth. It's a loose analogy. Anyways, USC has to win a battle for a defensive lineman when you're going up against Oklahoma. especially when it's a position of desperate need. But like I said, Oklahoma's in the market too. They need depth and they need help at the defensive line. USC needs to take advantage of the time they have with Eric Henderson before he gets promoted to defensive coordinator somewhere else or becomes a head coach somewhere else. If USC can't get one or two guys who want to play with Bear Alexander and the rest of USC's defense this year, that's not sending a good signal. And let's not forget, USC is going into the Big Ten Conference this year. The transition will be a lot tougher if you can't get these types of players. You need these types of players to compete in the Big Ten Conference. You need run steppers. You need guys who take up spots on the line. Right? I think USC is fine everywhere else on defense. Overall, are they looking for impact guys who can come in and make it, right away, play right away? Absolutely. Absolutely. Without a doubt. But they need these two guys. They need Demonic Williams. They need Germaine Lole. All right, there it is. USC's going to war in the transfer portal. And they got to come up. They got to come out on top. They got to win. It's one thing to win the high school recruits. Right now, this is an important war. They got to win it. I'll be back with another episode of Locked On USC tomorrow. I'll have a practice report, the last one before the spring game. And I'm going to have my Friday rant. This one's going to be interesting. It's about asking for advice. Sometimes when you ask for advice, you're not going to hear the answer you want to hear all the time. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.